You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
There is little in this world that I love more than a good book and a glass of wine. But you know what I love more than that? Keeping my money where I can see it, like in my bank account, or watching myself spend it on books and wine. Unfortunately, you know who else loves keeping my money? Big Wireless. After years of getting absolutely robbed by sky-high bills, sneaky fees, and those quote-unquote free perks that somehow cost you more in the long run, people are finally getting the word about Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile gives you premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. No surprises, no overage, just high-speed data and unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. So now I don't have to pay extra if I want to go down a history rabbit hole all night. It is a free-for-all for just $15 a month. Plus, you don't need to deal with the drama of getting a new phone. Mint lets you keep your current one. So say bye-bye to those ridiculous bills and say hello to actually affording nice things, like all of those books on my wish list. I don't care that I've got 10 other books I haven't read. Mind your business. So, if you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/queens. That's mintmobile.com/queens. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months. 5 gigabyte plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for the first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
Hey everyone, this is Erin Carlson from the Stars of the Golden Age podcast. I just want to give you a quick heads up that Katie and Nathan's language can be a little on the spicy side. So if you're not comfortable with the occasional F-bomb and the like, it may not be suitable for you. Although I talk like a sailor in real life, I have to keep my podcast, Stars of the Golden Age, clean for my 90-year-old grandma's ears. So if you're into old Hollywood stars like Hedy Lamarr, Frank Sinatra, and Jean Harlow and want to learn all about their lives in a clean but not boring way, come on over to Stars of the Golden Age and check them out. But first, mix yourself up a tasty cocktail and listen to this story by Katie and Nathan. Enjoy!
Hi, this is Katie.
And this is Nathan.
And you're listening to Queen's Podcast, the show about women in history. Nathan.
Katie.
Hello, beautiful. How you doing?
Oh, it's been great. The sun is out. The temperatures are up. It is no longer freezing here in Austin.
It is a warm one outside. Well, this morning, I spent some time looking through our fans' votes. Nathan, the Oscars are tonight.
I know.
Over on our Instagram and in our newsletter, we ran a Queen's Podcast Award Season awards. So our listeners got to vote on most tragic queen, most fuck around and find out queen, favorite villain. Do you want to hear a couple of the winners?
Yes, let's do it.
I'm not going to go over everything because we'll be here all day. You can check the winners on our Instagram. But the most tragic queen was between Lady Jane Grey, Juana of Castile, Catherine Howard, and Selena Quintanilla. Who would you have voted for?
Ooh.
I know.
Ooh. I'd go Tudor file Catherine Howard.
Okay. She was a close second. Actually, no, Catherine Howard was in third. The winner was Juana of Castile. She's our most
so they're all tragic.
Yay, congrats. Yeah, they're all
congrats on
tragic.
Having a sad life.
This
Yay.
one was not even close. The Queen of Fuck Around and Find Out, Olga of Kiev, Boudica, Jean de Clisson, and Ya Osentewa. I thought this one was going to be a lot closer, but who do you think was the Queen of Fuck Around and Find Out?
Olga.
Olga by a mile was the winner there. So yeah, lots of fun. So y'all go and check that out on our Instagram and let us know in the comments if you feel like your girl was robbed of the Oscar. But Nathan, Livia Drusilla, where did we leave off?
We did leave off from our part 2 episode in that it's 17 BC and Livia Drusilla is the most powerful woman in Rome through her marriage to the totally not emperor, but kind of, yeah.
Definitely Emperor
Augustus. Yeah, it's Emperor Augustus. And while she's still an advisor to her husband, her main focus is getting her son, Tiberius, on the throne.
In fact, she wants it so bad. Is she capable of murder?
Oh, cheeseball.
I know. But that's the rumor that's flying around when her husband's nephew, Marcellus, died very suddenly. Did Livia have him murdered to put her son Tiberius closer in line?
Probably not true.
Probably not.
But this is the reputation that she's starting to build.
Right.
Which brings us right to where we left off. Instead of Augustus adopting and naming Tiberius heir, he adopts his two grandsons, Gaius and Lucius Malfoy. I mean, just Lucius. It's just Lucius.
Is that a Harry Potter thing?
Yes, it is.
Since I didn't get it, I was like, I bet it's Harry Potter. I bet it is. At the end of the last episode, we talked a bit about the weird morality laws that Augustus was putting in place. Mm-hmm. His make Rome great again thing that hugely centered around all Romans getting married, having lots and lots of Roman babies.
So how would you pronounce that? It's Mr. Ga?
Make Rome great again. Murga.
Augustus only had one biological child, his daughter, Julia. She's been married for a long time to a guy named Agrippa, and they had lots of Roman babies. But then Agrippa died, which is when Livia saw an opportunity.
She had been begging Augustus to marry his daughter, Julia, to her son, Tiberius, for ages. Except no one besides Livia wanted this. Like, nobody else was interested in this at all. Julia and Tiberius could not be more different. They did not like each other. They grew up together, like as step siblings. So try not to think about that too hard. They just also, their personalities clashed. And on top of all of that, Tiberius was happily married. He loved his wife.
It also really doesn't seem like Augustus necessarily wanted this.
Yeah.
He didn't seem to have much love for Tiberius at all.
Really.
Yeah, this is yet another sign of just how much pull Livia had with her husband. And in 11 BC, against everyone else's wishes, Julia and Tiberius were married.
But unfortunately, as one son's status is rising, tragedy struck for her other son. In 19 BC, her son Drusus fell off a horse while on campaign in Germany. And then he started to recover, but then he got some infection. And he died. Ooh. And Livia was not well, which of course she wasn't. Can you blame her?
Yeah, she has lots of trauma with stuff like this. And
yes.
Livia made a very public showing of her grief. There was a very public and expensive funeral. Now, many haters will say that this public display of grief was a ploy of Augustus to remind everyone that his family is the perfect Roman family, and his wife was the perfect Roman mother, who was almost killed by grief for her son, who had been the perfect Roman soldier.
Oh, we get it, Augustus. We get it. But also, maybe that was part of the plan, but also can't both things be true? That her show of grief was legitimate, and it also did push forward their perfect family image. It definitely bought Livia a lot of public sympathy, which some say she needed because of these whole maybe you murdered your nephew rumors.
Now, what does this mean for Livia's chances of being mother of an emperor one day? Augustus had liked Drusus a wee bit, not a wee bit, a lot better than he liked Tiberius.
Everybody liked Drusus better.
Yeah, he's charismatic, handsome, and also had a young son named Germanicus. And after Drusus's death, Augustus starts growing really close to Germanicus, and rumors start to fly that he might actually adopt Germanicus and make him his heir.
And maybe at this point, Livia would have been like, okay, what the fuck? Are you trying to just make anyone your heir besides Tiberius? What the hell, Augustus? Tiberius is your stepson. He's your son-in-law. He's right there. He's right here. Oh my God, Tiberius. Oh, shit. Wait, where's Tiberius? Hello, Tiberius.
Yeah, right. This was the first time that Tiberius would do one of his favorite things one of his, favorite pastimes, which was get the fuck out of Rome.
Getting the fuck out of Rome. He did not care for making Rome great again, or even being any part of it. It's actually really sad. Tiberius's villain origin story does make me quite sad. So his wife that he had been forced to divorce to marry Julia, every time he would see her around, he would get so emotional and like start crying because he was still in love with her. But she had married another man now, and he was just grief-stricken about it. And then him and Julia got along long enough to have one child, but then that child was stillborn. Then Julia is just running around openly having affairs on him because she did not want to be married at all. And yeah, I might want to get the fuck out of town too.
Tiberius went to Augustus and Livia and formally asked for permission to retire from duty as a member of the imperial family. There was an island off Greece called Rhodes Island.
Rhodes Island?
Rhodes Island. Anyway, he was done with Rome and all the people in it, so he was asking if it was, okay to do ye old GTFO.
Can I have permission to get the fuck out of here and not have to deal with any of these people anymore? But Livia was just like, are you fucking serious, Tiberius? Ooh, that rhymed. Are you fucking serious, Tiberius? I am trying to make you emperor here. What do you not understand? Why do you think it's okay for you to just fucking bounce now?
Right? And it wasn't just Livia who was pissed. Augustus was pissed too.
Yeah.
Sure, he had never made Tiberius an heir, but he'd done him a lot of favors in getting him good jobs and then marrying him to his daughter, which should have been considered a huge honor. But now you're just gonna leave?
Are you just gonna leave?
Augustus was like, okay, I'm done with this guy. I'm so done. Just go, get out of here, you weird fucking loser.
Ugh, as we called him in our Agrippina episode, creepiest Tiberius. But he wasn't creepiest Tiberius yet.
Not yet.
I read this one story about, which just made me think, oh my God, the men in the story are such fucking drama queens. There's this story about Augustus pretending like he was on his deathbed when Tiberius said he was leaving to try to get Tiberius to stay. And it was like, he was faking it. Yeah. Drama.
Yeah, I was about to say drama.
So Tiberius bounces. Let's look at who is left who's left in the heir. Who are the heirs in the heir? So Augustus has already adopted his two grandsons, Lucius and Gaius. He also had another grandson named Posthumus, and they were all the children of his daughter Julia. So I feel like I need chart here, but it is a podcast, so you can't see it.
Spoiler, Posthumus was not posthumously named as leader. Anyway.
No, he was named Posthumus because he was born after his dad died.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So we got Lucius, Gaius, and possibly Posthumus. And then there's Livia's grandson, Germanicus, who Augustus married off to Julia's daughter, Agrippina.
Okay.
So yeah, they're really putting these families, combining these families together. Julia also had another daughter named Julia the Younger, who was now married and is going to start making potential heirs pretty soon. She is just Tiberius has left the picture and there's all these other people front and center for my husband to name.
Yeah. And over the next handful of years, it became very obvious that being a possible heir to Rome was a little bit dangerous.
Occupational hazard.
There's a lot of turnover, and by turnover, we mean people are dying and disappearing.
So we won't have time to spend too much time on any of these because they could all be their own episode. But let's kind of go off of, how these people all start dying and disappearing.
Go off, Katie. Go off.
In a short term. Let's go off. So let's set up a timeline. 6 BC, Tiberius's exit. He gets the fuck off to Rhodes Island. 4 years later, in 2 BC, Livia's stepdaughter Julia is sent into exile.
Side note, Julia's story is so interesting. So we're going to have to spend time on it. Basically, she's breaking all of Daddy's rules and breaking all the rules on how women should behave. She'd never been faithful in marriages. She liked to dress fancy, be loud. Oh my God, I kind of love her.
Yes, I do too.
She was the anti-Livia. stepmother and stepdaughter could not be more different.
No, like I think I heard a story of like them being at some games or something. And, you know, Livia is sitting with the other married women and Julia is sitting with all the men. Some of them married, some of them not. And her dad was like, I need you to be more like your stepmom. And she was just basically, that sounds so boring. Absolutely not. So she'd been acting like that. Like Julia has been breaking her dad's morality laws for years, but Augustus had always turned a blind eye to it. But then one day he just fucking snaps. He arrests her. He sends her into exile. And a lot of people look at Augustus's kind of sudden decision as being influenced by Livia. Did Livia blame Julia for running Tiberius out of town?
Mm-hmm.
Did Livia think if they smeared Julia's name, her children wouldn't look like such good candidates to heirs, you know?
Not saying, just saying, but
Not saying, I'm just saying.
Then in 2 and 4 AD, Gaius and Lucius also die while on campaign. Both seem to be very, very popular and very healthy when they died.
Right? One of them died like on the battlefield. I think they were trying to take over Germany, and so he died fighting. And so I don't know how Livia could have orchestrated that. But still, it looks a little suspicious.
Suspicious.
So then in 8 AD, Julia the Younger, so the younger Julia, is also sent into exile for having an affair. And the child she was pregnant with, when she's sent into exile, just kind of disappears from the records.
Eventually, the youngest grandson, Postumus, starts to cause trouble too. And instead of sending him to reform school, nope.
Exile.
It's exile, yep.
Exile Island. So in about a span of 12 years, we went from having all the heirs in the air, like so many heirs, to 2 options, Tiberius and Germanicus, Livia's son and Livia's grandson. Isn't that convenient? Look, are the historical records for women in an ancient world sexist? Yes, like we've covered that so many times on this show, that women in the ancient world are primarily written about by men that hate women 200 years later or whatever, you know? So is it a trope for a woman to be written as like the schemer, blah, blah, blah? But does it also look a little suspicious?
It does. It does. This would also be something good for Tandy.
This would be so good for Tandy.
Like,
yes,
how power hungry was Livia? Was she just a lovely little housewife, or was she scheming?
Schemer.
Now, let's look at this a little more logically, though. It's almost impossible that she would have had anything to do with the deaths of Lucius and Gaius. They were young, yes, but in the ancient world, people died from minor infections all the time, especially if you're out on a campaign. But you know, all those folks sent into exile.
Look, we can't talk about how much Augustus like took her advice and how influential she was and praise her for that, but then say we don't believe it when it's the commentary on her is more critical. You know, did she probably have a hand in getting her daughter-in-law suddenly exiled? No facts, just vibes. What do you think, Nathan?
Yeah, I think
it looks suspicious.
Yeah, I think she did. If she didn't have a direct hand, she may have indirectly done something to kind of mess with things.
Her husband is Tiberius. Julia's husband is Tiberius. When she is sent into exile, what happens to all her property?
Oh, it goes to Tiberius.
But Tiberius isn't there, so who does it go to while he's not there?
Livia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. That's a little suspicious.
Okay. So let us know what y'all think. You know, find us on socials or like comment on Spotify. Nathan, that was just a lot to take in. I'm going to need to top off my drink.
Go get it, girl.
Okay. We will be back in just a second.
I just recently got rid of a bunch of clothes that were either outdated or a little worn. And unfortunately, I had to get rid of a lot of those wardrobe staples and didn't have any backups. Not to mention the budget to afford it all. Fortunately for me, I had Quince. I was able to afford new jeans, jackets, polos, button-ups, anything that I can use for any occasion. For me, crafting a wardrobe is about finding quality items that you can mix and match to make the perfect outfit, and Quince has got you covered there. The best part? All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Also, by partnering with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. So give yourself the luxury you deserve with Quince. Go to quince.com/queenspod for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/queenspod to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Queens.com/queenspod.
We are queens, so of course we love the finer things in life. But you know what I don't love? Not always being able to afford it. So that's why I love Quince. When I first discovered Quince, I got this gorgeous faux fur blanket. I could not believe the quality for the price. I called up my mom and I was like, oh my gosh, Mom, this website has so much amazing stuff. And she was literally like, Katie, have you been living under a rock? Of course I know about Quince. All right, Mom. All right, judgy a little bit. But then she was telling me about how she redecorated the guest room and she got these beautiful European linen sheets at a fraction of the cost from quince.com. And she was even looking at some suitcases. And I was like, well, Mom, clutch those pearls because I got a deal for you. The reason that Quince is able to offer things like bedding and clothes and jewelry at 50 to 80% off compared to similar brands is because they partner with top factories and cut out the cost of a middleman that then passes the savings on to us. And for a bonus, like you needed even better news about Quince, they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, which I love. Okay, so this is for my mom, but it is for y'all too. Hey Mom, before you go and buy that suitcase, I got this promo code for you. So who's the favorite kid now? Give yourself the luxury you deserve with Quince. Go to quince.com/queenspod for free shipping on your orders and 365-day returns. That is QUINCE.com/queenspod to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/queenspod. Cheers!
So we're back and the years are flying by. Augustus is not a young man anymore. With pretty much all other possible heirs out of the running, Augustus takes a deep sigh and says, fine, fuck it, Tiberius will be my heir. Direct quote. Yeah, perfect.
Probably, yeah.
Tiberius comes back from his self-imposed exile and is formally adopted by Augustus, with the stipulation that Tiberius must formally adopt Germanicus.
Yeah, because the thought is, okay, I am setting up a generational peaceful transfer of power. So not just my generation, but then the generation after me.
Yeah.
Is
set
up.
Yeah.
In 14 AD, Augustus and Livia traveled to one of Augustus's favorite spot of their villa that they owned in the city of Nola, which when I went to Google it, like how far is Nola from Rome? Google was like, New Orleans, Louisiana is very far from Rome. And I was like, no.
I mean, touche, Google, I get the confusion.
Yeah. No, but that's about a 2-hour drive, so it's probably like half a day journey for them.
Okay.
They just wanted to get out of Rome for a while. I love that.
Yes, and there, according to the ancient Livia smear campaign, Augustus loved to eat figs off of his fig trees on their land, and Livia, being the doting wife that she was, would go pick them. Then one day, she decided that he had lived a long enough life and the batch of figs Livia brought in that day were poisoned. And that's how Augustus, the first citizen, totally not emperor of Rome, but first emperor of Rome, and how he died.
Yes. Poison figs. I think in ancient Rome, there was even a brand, not a brand of fig, but like some certain type of fig that they ended up naming the Livia fig because of this rumor. I know.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So now today, most historians call bullshit on this. Like, Augustus was 75. which
Yeah.
back then was so old. 75 now, as opposed to 75 in the ancient world. Their lives were just physically tougher back then. So
Yeah.
that is a long life, well beyond the average life expectancy. But I think the rumors that she killed him were amplified by what happens next.
Yeah, you have to remember that before Augustus came to power and ruled for over 40 years, Rome was at civil war non-stop.
Non-stop.
Stabbing Julius Caesar on the Senate floor, going all the way to Egypt to kill Mark Antony.
She probably was super afraid that if she just told everybody, hey, Augustus is dead, as soon as it happened, it would be like anarchy, people fighting for power. We've seen that before on this podcast. So she was like, I've got to keep this under wrap. There's groundwork to lay to ensure the peace, to ensure the transfer peaceful of power to my son and, well, to myself.
Just by proxy. It just so happens to be me. Livia instead spent the next couple of weeks before the announcement making sure that Tiberius as emperor was a done deal.
Right.
Did this include a secret meeting?
Probably.
Yeah. Does this include bribes and promises? Probably. But was there a civil war? No. Was there a peaceful transition? Yes.
That doesn't mean there were no casualties. Augustus's grandson Postumus, who had been sent into exile, and his mother Julia the Elder, both died in their exile islands the year that Augustus died, which doesn't seem like a coincidence.
Of course, after the emperor's death, the country went into mourning and Livia played her part as the grieving widow. She did it perfectly, but of course she did.
Of course she did. She's been doing it perfectly for the last 50 years or whatever.
Yeah, and she was grieving. Yeah. If you sit back and say that she didn't love Augustus after being married to him for 40 years, I can't get on that train. Like, I cannot get on the train if she didn't love him in some capacity.
Did they have a perfect marriage? Probably not. He was he was never faithful to her. But this was a society where if they hadn't been in love, they could have been divorced. I think she loved him. So the people that like to suggest she wasn't grieving and she was happy he was gone, I'm like, meh. So before we get into Livia's life as mother of the emperor, let's spend some time discussing what Augustus left in his will for her. So first off, Augustus legally adopted his wife, Livia.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So by adopting her, he's officially making her part of the imperial family because wives didn't necessarily have the same kind of inherent titles that you got just by being the child of the emperor. This is a big fucking deal. She was able to get the title Augusta, which is the female version of Augustus, which basically is saying that a woman has the favor of the gods, which was not this was groundbreaking. You did not get to just be called Augusta willy-nilly unless you were Livia fucking Drusilla or excuse me, Livia fucking Augusta. Ooh.
Next, he left her a third of his estate to inherit as her own property, not in conjunction with a man. That, on top of all the other businesses she owned in her own right that we talked about in the last episode. Katie's saying it. Money.
She's rich, bitch.
Maybe the richest woman in the world at the time.
Yeah. That woohoo, buku of cash or coins or whatever. So she also campaigned to have Augustus deified. That basically just means made into a god. So how it worked back then, which we've talked about this a lot on Patreon too, is that when someone's deified, all the gods have their own cult, which isn't like a cult like we think of now, but each cult had a head priest as part of it. So the priest got super special honors like a pension and a bodyguard. So like we were talking about with the Vestal Virgins that we talked about on Patreon, you know? Mm-hmm. So who better, if we're going to deify Augustus, who better to be the priest of his cult than his own fucking wife?
How convenient.
Yes.
Okay, so now she's secured her son's rise to power. She's got her money situation, and she has a and I will always wait. No, she has a bodyguard. She's in her mid-60s, and this is the ancient world. Surely she's thinking about retiring now. Nope. Livia's time in real power just getting started.
Woohoo! About damn time. So let's go ahead and take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsors, and then we'll come back and see our girl in her in the spot that she's always meant to be, in power.
Whistle while you work.
From Disney on March 21st, the magical tale
Snow White. Snow White.
Snow White that started it all
I believe you're looking for me.
arrives in theaters.
Magic mirror on the wall.
Experience the Disney classic
Who's the fairest one of all?
like never before.
We haven't even been introduced yet.
Disney Snow White, only in theaters March 21st. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested.
You're the perfect blend of elegance and style, and your ride should be no different. The 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid meets all your needs, from business to brunch and everywhere in between. With head-turning details like a sleek front end, plus stylish interior, and an available 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster and seamless tech integration. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more about the new 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid.
So we are back, and Tiberius is emperor, but he has mixed emotions about it. Remember, he never really wanted it. It's his mother who always wanted him to be emperor, so, ooh.
And something we should note for anyone that knows their Roman history, Tiberius has gone down in history as a sex creep.
There's no nice way to say it.
No, there's a really disturbing Patreon episode that we did years ago that traumatized me. The island looks beautiful, but I'm scared to step foot on it because I feel like there's just some bad vibes.
Yeah, if you're a Patreon supporter and you want to go listen to it, just go and search like Capri.
Isle of Capri.
And we, I thought about running it on the main feed because it's a super old episode from Patreon. And I went back and listened to like half of it yesterday. And I was like, nope, this stays behind a paywall.
Yeah, it needs to because
Too creepy.
Yeah, very creepy. But in his early years, it really wasn't the reign of Tiberius. It was the reign of Tiberius and Livia.
Yes, they were on coins together. If they went to a state event together, they were presented together. If someone wrote a petition to the emperor, it was addressed to Livia and Tiberius, both, almost always with Livia's name first.
And for the most part, it seems like Tiberius was chill with this. Yeah. He doesn't seem to really like doing the whole PR part of the job.
No.
He'll let his mother shake hands with all the sinners. Let her be the public face of the role. And they didn't see eye to eye 100% of the time for the first 5 years or so, in fact, until the death of Germanicus changed everything.
Everything. Yeah, it was a pretty harmonious and popular rule until what happens next. If you'd like a deeper dive into this, I will link in the show notes to our Agrippina the Elder Part 2 episode where we talk about what happens next ad nauseum. But for the sake of brevity in this one, we're going to kind of keep it a little bit abbreviated. But here are the cliff notes. Germanicus is Livia's grandson, and he is like the most famous man in Rome. In our Agrippina episode, we talk about them basically, Germanicus, Agrippina the Elder, and their kids kind of being like the Kennedy family in the 60s to what they are like now. Very, very popular. And Germanicus is just, charisma is also just like oozing out of his pores. He is young. He's hot. He's got the bloodline. Without getting too consumed by this family tree, because it is confusing, his pedigree, to put, I don't know, whatever the phrase you would use, his DNA, I don't know. He may make more sense for him, like genetically, to be emperor anyway.
There were a group of people that looked at Germanicus and then looked at Tiberius and then looked at Germanicus and said, hey, hold on a second. Why isn't Germanicus our emperor? Which,
Ruh-roh. Historically, things have not gone great for people when other people are like, he should be king instead. Like, ooh. Ooh. So to do some major skimming, Germanicus ends up dead. And it's possibly due, like the theory is that Tiberius had his bestie Piso poison Germanicus. And when Germanicus died, the country went into a deep, deep mourning, and everyone was holding memorials to him and openly grieving him in the streets. Everybody, with the exception of two very public figures.
And as much as we want to be on Livia's side because we love a powerful woman, this was a struggle.
It really was.
Yeah, this is her grandson, not her adopted grandson that joined their family after he was an adult and through all that weird Roman ancient stuff.
Yeah.
This was her grandson that she would have known since the day he was born.
Yeah.
And Livia and Tiberius never even addressed the death publicly, which there may be a little foreshadowing here.
Yeah.
They never attended any of his memorials. They were just crickets. Nothing. Silence.
So I don't want to take credit for this. There's this podcast called The Other Half, and the guy that runs it is a guy named James. So I want to give him credit for this analogy, but I think it's so perfect. Do you know how after Princess Diana died, the British royal family didn't make a public statement, and what a fucking big deal that was, and how bad of a PR move that was for them? Isn't that the perfect parallel here?
It's the exact same parallel.
So like if you were alive when Princess Diana died, I didn't live in England. I don't remember anything about the royal family not making a statement, but it was a huge fucking deal that they didn't do it. And so that is the perfect parallel here. Everybody's just waiting for Livia and Tiberius to at least like show up and be like, we are so sad, but it's silent. And it's just, oh, it was a bad move. And why? Pourquoi?
I mean, no, that parallel is totally spot on.
Yeah.
And people started to notice, and not long after, Germanicus' wife, Agrippina the Elder, starts running her mouth. And when that big sexy mouth.
When she started running that big sexy mouth.
And when she ran that big sexy mouth, she often was talking shit on Tiberius and Livia Drusilla. I mean, Augusta.
Yeah. Agrippina hated her stepmother her grandmother her step grandmother / grandmother-in-law. These families. So Livia Agrippina, not friends, not friendly. And it's almost certain that Livia didn't care for Agrippina in return. Because Agrippina was loud and relentless, whereas Livia had always used her power by being quiet, very demure, very shush. Yeah. Whereas Agrippina was very passionate and outspoken. So Livia was more than anything embarrassed because she was like, the people in this family are the women in this family are not supposed to carry on this way. Shut the fuck up. Which, I mean, but you grieved openly when your son died, Livia.
Yeah, why not now? Also, Livia was instrumental in getting a woman named Plancina acquitted for her part in possibly poisoning Germanicus.
Yeah.
But, and huge spoiler alert here for the life of Agrippina the Elder, while Livia was alive, Agrippina was never punished for talking shit on the emperor. The year that Livia died is the year that Agrippina was sent into exile.
Right. So even though these two women hated each other, it's still the great-grandmother. Livia's the great-grandmother to Agrippina's kids. So Livia almost certainly pulled some strings to keep Agrippina from suffering, or her sons from suffering, any kind of retribution for their public remarks and stuff. Because it was after that Livia died that their level of comfort took a nosedive. Spoiler alert.
Coffee talk.
Real talk.
Did Livia have anything to do with the death of her grandson Germanicus? Discuss.
What would her motives would be? Well, one, my knee-jerk reaction is like, no, because it's her grandson. But then also, remember how Livia, when the Civil War was going on, Livia was on the run? She might be thinking, if people are backing Germanicus, it could lead to civil war. So I need to nip this in the bud.
Oh, so she's getting some PTSD from the past, just causing her to want to make this decision.
But then kill her own grandson? I don't know, Nathan.
Because I feel like she would still have some power over her grandson, right?
Yeah, but because when they said, hey, Germanicus, we think you should be emperor, Germanicus did try to shut that all down because he knew that was dangerous for people to be saying that. So I don't think Germanicus would have necessarily rocked the boat.
But why did she act so distant? Like, why not go to the funeral? Why not, because that should be your time to show grief that you're sad about this.
I don't know.
I
just don't know.
Guilty. Yeah.
And we'll never know until we ask Tandy, our resident psychic Tandy. Either way, the whole thing really marked the decline of Livia's power and Tiberius's popularity. Like, Tiberius started to hate his mother after this as well. Maybe he always hated his mother. Mm-hmm. That's also possible. He didn't want to be emperor. He didn't want to divorce his first wife, but she pushed all of this on him. And it just seems like that kind of all just came to the surface along with this PR nightmare that was the death of Germanicus.
Yeah, and Tiberius started to bar her from meetings, make sure she was excluded from all public events. And on a few occasions, the Senate wanted to give Livia certain titles, honors, or, build statues for her. And Tiberius was straight up like, nope, she has enough. She's good. She doesn't need anything else. Which is a very, very, very public fuck you to Livia.
Absolutely. I wonder how Livia felt, because obviously she would have felt disrespected, but it feels so complicated. Their relationship just feels complicated. He is dealing with his own trauma lasagna, and she is gonna know that. And also, Livia is getting older. She is about 78 years old around this time, which in the ancient world is fucking wild. Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me if she was kind of thinking of retiring anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense. Historically, Tiberius's reign as a Roman emperor is viewed in two specific ways. The early years, aka when Livia was around and heavily involved, those years are viewed very positively. And then there's the later years, the dark years.
The dark years.
AKA, he stopped working with Livia, and we are, unfortunately for everyone involved, entering the dark years.
The dark years. In 26 AD, Tiberius did his favorite thing in the world. What is that, Nathan?
GTFO.
Getting the fuck out of Rome. He went to his island of Capri to do sex crimes. And he leaves the running of the country to his bestie and all-around creepy guy, Sejanus, which in our episode where he's more of a character, we called him Sejanus the Anus.
Which, how could you not?
How could you not? It's right there. It's right there.
We don't have time to deep dive into Sejanus's life and, possibly murder his plot, but he was more or less running Rome while Tiberius was gone. And he did not see a seat at the table for Livia.
So Livia spent her final years still pretty involved, but just not as publicly. She still would sponsor people she liked, and she just kind of did it. I'm just imagining her now being like, that's fine. I'll just stay in my moo-moo toga at home.
Moo-moo toga.
Eating my Livia figs. Y'all come to me. It's fine.
Letters between her and Tiberius seem to indicate that he was still big mad and having major mommy issues over his weird, creepy sex island.
Ugh. And that is where Tiberius is when in 29 AD, he received a letter that his mom was very ill. If you want to see her again, you should come now. And he never went to see her, even though he definitely had time. And she passed away in her home at the age of 87.
Whoa, that's old. I don't think we've ever covered anybody in ancient times, at least, that died. I mean, that's
That got
even
to die
old
of
for
natural causes.
yeah. That's old for medieval. Like now, that's old.
Yeah. Who are some of the ancient people we've discussed and like how they got to die?
Oh gosh, Agrippina the Elder starved to death. Agrippina the Younger stabbed to death.
Cleopatra's suicide, Messalina forced suicide, Olympia of Macedonia stoned to death, Hypatia of Alexandria beat to death.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of women in close proximity to power in the ancient world that got to die in their beds of old age.
So, yay for Livia. What an accomplishment.
Yeah, well, that she lived a long life. So, yeah.
She played the game. Yeah. So, after Livia's death, the country goes into mourning. Look, she had lost a little of her popularity over the last few years, but she had been a sign of peace and stability and Roman power for the last 60 years. So, I'm not surprised that the country grieved her.
But you know what? You know who wasn't grieving?
Ugh.
Tiberius.
This fucking guy.
He didn't even come to Rome or the funeral, which kind of sounds like what they did to Germanicus. But anyway, they tried to hold the funeral off and wait for him. But you can only wait so long when you got a dead body hanging around.
Yep. He basically only came to Rome when they were like, okay, it's time to like sort her will now. And he's like, oh, I'll be there for that. Yeah. So we aren't sure what exactly was in her will, but we know that Tiberius was interested in it. And by that, I mean interested in throwing it right in the garbage and saying, no, we're going to just give me all her stuff. I'm her only surviving son. So we don't need to see what she wanted. Just give it all to me. He had mommy issues, and it's now everybody else's problem.
Over the next generation, Livia's legacy was severely diminished as her son Tiberius, who she had fought so hard to bring to power, he just continued to suck at being an emperor and just like denying her honors after her death and all of that stuff. He just sucked at being a person. Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy. So, Livia's legacy is a bit of a mixed bag. Tiberius, during the reign of Tiberius, like there was just like PR campaign to just make her be viewed more and more negatively. However, her name was not completely stricken from the histories because when her grandson Claudius became emperor, he did what Tiberius forbade the Senate to do. He had Livia Drusilla deified, and her new name is Diva Augusta. Oh, I love that. And her image was once again used as a public symbol. Like she was put on coins. They also had an image of her put on chariots and stuff that like official important dudes would ride around in. So for a while, at least, she was tied to, Claudius used her image of like, that's my grandma and y'all loved her. So please love me. And yeah.
And that is the wild life of Livia Drusilla. Again, legacy, complete mixed bag. Some view her as a saint, while others paint her as a murderous snake. So let us know what y'all think.
Yeah, find us. We're on Instagram and stuff. So follow us there and comment on the post that we make about her. Let us know. Do you think she's completely innocent? Do you think she is a murderous snake? Somewhere in between. I want to hear about it. Well, Nathan, this was so much fun. And sad and weird all at once.
Yeah. Aggressive.
It was aggressive.
And shady.
All right. Shady. What do you think? What's your final opinion of Livia?
I'm always somebody that thinks that it's somewhere in between. I think that she was a very like up at the very beginning. She may have been great, and then all of a sudden it was like, there's this one little thing that I really have been wanting. So she probably got a few people exiled to get what she wanted. But outside of that, I don't think she's murdering people. I don't think she's poisoning people. Maybe,
yeah, it's a complicated one, and I think I agree with you. I feel like the truth is always somewhere in the middle. But yeah. All right. Well, we will talk to you later, queens, and cheers.
Cheers.
This is Jen.
And Jenny.
From Ancient History Fangirl, and we're here to tell you about Jenny's scorching historical romantasy based on Alaric of the Visigoths, Enemy of My Dreams. Amanda Boucher, best-selling author of the Kingmaker Chronicle, says, quote, "This book has everything. High-stakes action, grit, ferocity, and blazing passion. Julia and Alaric are colliding storms against a backdrop of the brutal dangers of ancient Rome. They'll do anything to carve their piece out of this treacherous world and not just survive, but rule."
Enemy of My Dreams is available for pre-order wherever books are sold.